Michael Saylor just said Bitcoin is going to $50 million. This is coming out yesterday, and it's absolutely a crazy price target. We'll talk about whether that can happen. We'll look at how much Bitcoin you need then for various goals. I also want to show you some of the economic data that just came out. We have GDP coming out, and it's really good. We have jobless claims coming out as well, right on the money. We have news from GameStop. They're not doing what you think they're going to do to get their billions of dollars of Bitcoin. BlackRock's buying, and Robinhood just unveiled something that no one saw coming with their app. So if you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video. As we can see, Bitcoin sitting right around 87,000. We've been stuck here for a couple days. If we just scroll out here, we've been stuck right in between. When we pushed up to 87,000 back on the 24th, we've just been ranging since then. So obviously, 89,000 is the mark that everyone's watching. We got rejected by that recently. And let me actually go here. You can see it much better. But we got rejected by Bitcoin around 89. And that's where we previously saw resistance as well. So it would be really awesome to see a move above 89,000. That would make a lot of people very bullish. As you can see here, though, we have been holding this line as support, which is bullish as well. GDP just came in a few minutes ago. It rises to 2.4%. The estimate was 2.3%. The economy is growing. This is bullish for Bitcoin. So many people are worried about the economy right now. And I know people that are like very close to retirement or are retiring right around now, and they're really worried about the stock market. They're worried that Trump is going to tank it. But so far, GDP looks pretty solid. I mean, to be fair, this is kind of what he inherited, right? He came in January 20th, but keep in mind, businesses knew that he was going to be president back in the early winter / fall in Q4 of last year. So they started to change what they're going to do for this year. So the fact is, this does price in a little bit of, Trump being president. This is pretty much best case scenario. I said this yesterday. I wouldn't want this to come in below estimates because then people would think the economy is doing poorly. I also wouldn't want it to come in way above estimates. If this came in at 3%, right, people would think that we're going to have runaway inflation then, that we're going to have to start raising rates. So I think this keeps us on track where, the economy is growing, but we can make it grow faster if we start at lower rates and quantitative ease, right? So I think this is really a sweet spot. We also got jobless claims. It was estimated at 225,000. Actually, it came in at 224,000. So again, the economy looks fairly strong. This is really positive news. GameStop announced a few days ago that they wanted to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And just yesterday, they announced a proposed private offering of $1.3 billion of senior convertible notes. Let's take a look at GME stock today. It's down about 7.76%. A lot of people might be confused by the stock falling. This is somewhat normal when most companies raise cash. Usually their stock price falls down because they're diluting shareholders. I'd say it's a little bit different here, though, because it's not like they're going to go out and blow this on bonuses for employees or anything like this. They're going to go buy a hard asset with it. So in theory, if they dilute by 100%, if they want to dilute by $13 billion, let's say that they could do this, it shouldn't make their stock fall down all that much because they're going to go buy $13 billion worth of hard assets and they're still worth what they were beforehand. So yeah, maybe some people just surprised that they did this. They're buying they're getting 1.3 billion at 0%, not due until 2030. As opposed to just using the cash that they have on hand, because they do have a significant amount of cash. Just looking at the company real quick, and we'll get to Michael Saylor's huge price estimate in a minute. They have nearly $4.8 billion worth of cash. How'd they do this? Well, they've diluted shareholders a significant amount over the last 4 or 5 years. They've also lowered expenses, which is something that I did not know. They've lowered expenses a significant amount. I mean, according to this, they only spent $16 million on CapEx last year. Their EPS is kind of hit or miss. Right? Some years, massive negative years. I mean, 2019, they were negative $1.65 in EPS, negative $1.35, negative $83, negative $1.31. So the last couple of years, they have become more efficient to the point where maybe they're break even. You can see EBITDA, they're pretty much break even. EPS, they're slightly positive. Cash flow, it just depends on the year. Just still kind of surprising that they're raising cash for this instead of going and deploying the $4.7 billion that's just melting away. And maybe they already bought. Imagine that. Imagine they bought like $4 billion worth of Bitcoin, and then they're also trying to get another 1.3 billion. I think that would cause the stock to go up dramatically. BlackRock's coming out and buying Bitcoin today, 1,250 Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin's not going to be around forever. They are swallowing up Bitcoin like crazy. By the way, if you do want to trade Bitcoin, if you want to trade crypto, there are links underneath the video to Blowfin, WEEX, BTCC, Hotcoin. We're even going to put in the CoinW link here again soon. They have a private trading group. And there's a link to BitUniX as well. But you can trade on those platforms. A lot of them have bonuses. Like right now, WEEX has 800,000 USDT that you can get. Or you can get part of 800,000 USDT. Depending on how much you trade and how profitable you are, you get more. And then Blowfin and BTCC both have 10% deposits on your first time deposit. So definitely check those out underneath the video. I've been trading a lot, and I think now's a great time to do it. Now, again, we'll get to Michael Saylor in a second, but Hood just unveiled Robinhood Banking, a new platform launching this fall for gold members. It offers 4% savings APY. Okay, pretty good, but that's pretty much industry standard. Estate planning, pro tax advice, and global transfers in 100+ currencies. You can even get cash delivered to your door. It's full service banking with luxury perks, Met Gala invites, private jet access, premium events, family accounts, and up to $2.5 million in FDIC insurance, all inside the Robinhood app. I saw that they're also using AI somehow to give you market insights. So pretty interesting. I might check this out, honestly. The fact that you can make transfers in so many different currencies seems like it's almost crypto-like. And I found this was really fascinating. Cash delivered to your door. So I wonder where this is going to be available, if it's going to be available just in big cities or all across the US. But this could be a selling point. I mean, there are some people that keep thousands and thousands of dollars in, their safe, or tens of thousands of dollars in their safe. And if you can convert those people, it might not make it worth it all the time, but it might be a selling point to join this in general. I know we're moving to more of a cashless world, but some people just keep, like I said, let's say $2,000 in their safe all the time. Well, let's say you put that $2,000 in the bank. Maybe Robinhood makes a little bit of money for that. It might make up for the fact that maybe once every year that they have to come and drive to your house to give you $100 in cash or something. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's a selling point. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Let's get on to Michael Saylor saying that Bitcoin could go to $50 million. This is as of yesterday. He was talking with Lummis on stage.
Dollars of capital are flowing into the network. It's going to go from 2 billion to 20 billion to 200 billion to 2 trillion to 20 trillion to 200 trillion. And when it gets to 200 trillion, it'll chop along at plus 20%. To eventually 300, 400, 500 trillion dollars. And where is that capital going to come from? It's going to come from Russian real estate. It's going to come from Chinese private equity. It's going to come from everything in Africa, everything in South America. You have capital flowing from foreign financial and physical assets to Bitcoin. You have capital flowing from 20th century assets to Bitcoin. Capital is going to flow from the 20th century to the 21st century. It's going to flow from physical to digital. It's going to flow from currency-based derivatives to a digital commodity derivative. So it's already happening. It's unstoppable. It's literally like, for me to say Bitcoin's going to demonetize gold understates it. Yeah, it's going to demonetize gold. Then it's going to demonetize the real estate that's 10x more than gold. Then it's going to demonetize every long-term store of value. So what you have is a situation like the Europeans show up and they give like some Dutch guilders or some pieces of paper or some glass beads or seashells or stone coins to people using a more primitive form of money. And we have the opportunity to, in essence, just grab 10, 20, 25% of the network, let the entire dynamic flow, and it's going to accelerate. And when the dust settles, the American people will own 25, 30% of that capital.
Okay, so Michael Saylor is saying that Bitcoin is going to absorb wealth and absorb basically value from all these other assets. He's talked about this before, that basically there are a lot of assets that are stranded, or there's a lot of capital that's forced into different places that don't really make sense, right? It's not global. It can't be liquidated easily. If you want freedom of movement and you have $1 billion mansion, or $100 million mansion in Russia, you have to sell it somehow. But there's economic risk, there's political risk, there's geographic risk, there's uncertainty. There's, like I said, very little liquidity in those big assets. So he's saying that basically capital is going to flow out of those areas and go to something that is global, that has a hard cap on it. And one thing that I've thought about a lot, and we'll get to the price here in a second. One thing that I thought about a lot is we're moving into a time of abundance. We're going to have, in the next 100 years, a lot more access to assets, to products, services than we've ever had. A lot of that's due to AI. Computers just getting smarter, right? If you don't want to think about it as AI, just think about it as computers getting smarter, where they're going to be able to run tasks. There are going to be more robots out there that run tasks for you. Just look, if you looked 100 years ago or 200 years ago, right? When people were sweeping with brooms, now we have Roombas. That's a very obvious improvement. This is a robot that goes around your house and vacuums for you. Or dishwashers, right? Instead of having a dishwasher person hundreds of years ago, you have something that you just put your dishes into dirty, pop a button, and it cleans it. Like, we're going to have more things like that, or cars that drive you around. We're going to have more things like that. So there's going to be more abundance. There's going to be more time to do what you want. There's going to be, you can build a house much cheaper because there are robots that go out and build houses. So naturally, the price of some items are going to go down, at least in relation to the monetary supply. So where do you put this money? When you can always build higher, right? You can always build more houses, especially if the cost of building houses goes down. Maybe you don't want to put your money into assets like that. I own real estate, to be clear. I own rental properties, but still something to think about. Do you want to put it into stocks that can dilute, or do you want to put it into the cash that you don't really know how it's governed, because a politician can come out and say, we're going to print another $1 trillion tomorrow? Like, no, you put it into hard assets that have a hard cap. It's the only thing that is finite, right? Bitcoin's the only thing that's finite. If we get good enough technology, we can go to different asteroids and mine, right? We can go to different regions that it's not profitable to mine, but we know there's gold or whatever, platinum there, diamonds, but it doesn't make sense because there's not quite enough. But if it gets cheaper, if we can send robots in, if there's less risk, then it makes sense. So Bitcoin's going to pull value from those other places. Now, I think Bitcoin's never been safer, honestly. I think politically it's never been safer. I think there are so many positive things going on for Bitcoin that honestly, like, if you look at Bitcoin at the bottom of the bear market at 20,000, or it fell down to 16,000, but let's say 18,000, right? And FTX blew up. And Binance was very uncertain. We didn't know if Binance was going to go bust as well, and they were going to cause the market to go down a lot more than FTX because they're much bigger and control much more of the market. You look at that time where Bitcoin's at $18,000 versus now, when there are multiple nations talking about Bitcoin, including the US, the economic superpower. We have BlackRock buying, we have the US government holding, we have all these politicians that are pushing Bitcoin and Bitcoin legislation. The SEC's backed off all the crypto companies. You look at that, I think Bitcoin's probably a better ROI, or risk to reward, I should say. Better risk to reward maybe right now than it was back then, just because the risk is so much less. Of course, the price is higher, though, so you have to consider that. He does talk about Bitcoin going to $500 trillion. I believe that's where he left off. So Michael, in this tweet, it says, he said that Bitcoin's going to $50 million. If it goes to 500 trillion, it's going to be right around a $24 million price, fully diluted. So at 20 million coins, it would be $25 million, but at 21 million coins, it would be $24 million. I think obviously then it would have to go to $2 quadrillion in market cap for Bitcoin to hit $50 million. But let's even scroll back to, 500 trillion. That sounds pretty crazy right now because there's nothing close to that. I think Apple's the largest stock right now, and it's in around 3.3 trillion. Keep in mind, this isn't today. This is, decades from now. I don't know if I'm as bullish as Michael Saylor. I know some people will get on me for saying that, but I'm not so sure that in our lifetime we'll see a $24 million Bitcoin. I could be wrong, though. Depending on how long people live, maybe it will be. But at $24 million, Michael Saylor's company, just based on the Bitcoin it holds today, would be worth $12 trillion. So it'd be 4 times bigger than Apple today. Okay, not insane to think about. Of course, they're going to get more Bitcoin over time, I think. So maybe they get to 1 million Bitcoin, and then they're worth, $24 trillion. Still, if you're looking decades into the future, they're probably not going to be the largest company in the world just based on normal growth rates. They could be right around there, but it would be fascinating to watch. If you had, 0.04 Bitcoin, you would be a millionaire in that scenario. That sounds pretty good. Obviously, there will be a lot of inflation by then, but some people point out the fact that you might be able to buy a house with 0.01 Bitcoin one day. The average house. The reason for that, there are about 2.1 billion houses estimated in the world, and there's 21 million Bitcoin. So what do you know? That is about 0.01 Bitcoin per house. If everyone wants Bitcoin, and you can build houses with robots, and it's very cheap, right? And we have materials that are cheaper. Yeah, maybe Bitcoin trades for 100 houses. Who knows? It's crazy to think about. It is crazy to think about. I'm not saying that we're going to get to that point, but by the time I die, I would not be surprised if we got there, right? Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Where do you think Bitcoin's going? Let's say by 2060, 35 years from now. Keep in mind, let's say Bitcoin's at 90,000 today, and it goes up 12% a year for the next 35 years. That would put it around $4.7 million. I mean, it's not crazy. It's not crazy. I don't think so, at least. If we go to 15%, it would be around $12 million by 2060. So 12% would be around 4.7 million. 15% gain, it would be around 12 million. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Again, if you do want to trade cryptos, there are links underneath the video to those different exchanges. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next one.